Chris Godinez, licensed professional counselor, the host of We Need to Talk with Chris Godinez. Let me get the disclaimers and stuff out of the way. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. If you feel you need a therapist, please go to Google, type in therapy. Your city, Psychology Today will pop up. Click on that and it will have all of the therapists in your area. Also, the views and opinions stated herein are mine and mine alone. They do not represent the ACA, APA, or any other therapist for that matter. Boom, done. Okay, so a little bit of housekeeping, guys. Okay, so you are more than welcome to instant message me on the what's wrong, or the what's dog face banana patch, on the We Need to Talk with Chris Godinez page. You can instant message me there. You can instant message me on the Chris Godinez LPC public speaker page. But I'm asking pretty please, sweetheart darlings, loves of my lives, please don't Facebook me on my personal page, because that is for my family and my friends only. So please don't send me messages there. Please, if you're going to send me messages, you can send them to me here on the We Need to Talk page or on the Chris Godinez LPC page, or you can even send them to the AHA counseling page. That is my website for my counseling business. Also, if you are going to be asking questions, please do that on the Facebook pages. Please don't clog my AHA counseling page with questions about the show, because that's generally reserved for my clients. So that would be really, really helpful. And also to clear up some stuff, so I get a lot of requests to do Skype counseling or phone counseling, or can you come to this state or come to this state? Here's the deal. Licensure is really stupid. It is. The APA and the ACA are just trying so hard to get licensure to be a national thing, but the problem of it is the states are greedy. And so in order to practice in every other state, you have to be licensed in every other state, unlike it is with a doctor or a nurse or things like that. So I can technically do phone and Skype counseling, but only with people here in Arizona. So, and plus the fact I don't like doing Skype counseling, because I'm one of these old fashioned chicks. I like face to face so I can read your body language, so I know what's going on. So there is that. If you are local in Arizona, I could, if there are extenuating circumstances, do phone counseling, but only after I see you in person. So, because that's just the way I roll. So anyway, that's it. All right, let's get down to brass tacks here. Tons of questions. Holy cow, not sure where I want to start. All right. So somebody wanted me to clarify something I said last week about so I was saying that in a healthy relationship, you don't hide the relationship. So in an unhealthy relationship, you're hiding it from family and friends, because you know you're with an abuser. You know it's not healthy, and you know the family doesn't like them. So you're hiding it, hiding. And that's not healthy or normal. But then the question was, when is it healthy and normal to start shouting from the rooftops that you're in a healthy relationship with somebody? Only after you've been with them for quite a long time and it appears that it is a solid, healthy relationship and the family and friends like this person. If they do not like this person, Houston, you got a problem. So yeah, so it's you start talking about your relationship when you know it's healthy, and when you know that the family and friends like them, and then when you know that you're on the right path, and that they're not keeping you up at night screaming at you, and that they're not being cruel to your children or to their children, or to whatever you start shouting it when you know it's a good thing, when you know it's a for sure thing. And if there's something telling you to hide it, then you need to get with a therapist and figure out what's going on. Or if the person is insisting that you start shouting from the rooftops after knowing them for less than a month or 2 months or even 6 months, then Houston, you want to take a look at that too. We may have a problem. So I hope that clarifies that. The other question I got was on self-esteem. So today's show is on self-esteem and self-care after abuse. So here's the deal. When we have been in an abusive relationship, we forget how to take care of ourselves, mainly because we are so codependent, or we are so enabling, or we are so empathic, and we give and give and give and give and give and give and give. And of course, our abuser takes and takes and takes and takes and takes and takes and takes. And we get to a point where we no longer remember what it's like to care for ourselves. And this is why it is so vitally important to get with a good therapist to start working on your self-esteem. So in the Self-Esteem Workbook by Schiraldi, the Self-Esteem Workbook by Schiraldi. Let me just say that again. The Self-Esteem Workbook by Schiraldi. Glenn Schiraldi, you want to start working on everything. And people often go to me, they're like, well, this workbook has a bunch of stuff on eating and exercise. Why? Because eating and exercise are part of self-esteem, people. It's about taking care of your body. It's about taking care of where you live. This is where you live. This is what's with you 24/7. If you don't take care of it, it's just like, not ever changing the oil in a car. Eventually it's going to go kaboom and it's going to stop working. And you don't want that. That would be very bad. And this whole good, bad thing, that would be bad. So in the Self-Esteem Workbook by Schiraldi, he does go through a whole series of questions about, what is your eating? What is your sleeping? What is your exercise like? How are you taking care of your body? What is your sleep hygiene like? What do you do to make sure that you're now getting enough sleep? Because when we have been abused and our abuser has been keeping us up, screaming at us or yelling at us or starting a fight at 1 or 2 in the morning, going until all hours, then we forget what it's like to have a normal night's sleep. And we've got CPTSD and we are on high alert and we are listening for any sort of danger. So yeah, you want to make sure that your sleep hygiene is really good. So part of this is eating and exercise. So when we are in an abusive relationship, we tend to do one of 2 things. We either stop eating healthfully and we start starving ourselves, or we overeat and we're eating out of emotions because we're not able to speak our truth. And so we are literally stuffing our anger or our fear or our hurt or our whatever into our mouth because it's not safe to speak it. So this is where we get the emotional eating. So how do we stop that, or how do we become aware of that? So it all has to do with mindfulness. You must be mindful. You must be in the moment. You must be living in the moment. It's kind of like, where am I right now? What does the air feel like on my skin? What's around me? What are my surroundings? How am I feeling? What am I thinking? And the second half of that question is, how do you separate yourself out from your emotions so that you're more like an observer and not always acting on your emotions? Again, mindfulness. This all has to do with mindfulness. So let me go back to the eating. So when we are eating, when we are about to nourish our bodies, you want to be mindful about it. It's almost like, how do I explain this? It's, how many times have you guys just chewed through a meal and couldn't even tell me what it tasted like? How many times have you just shoved stuff in your mouth and you were angry or upset or whatever, and you didn't really stop and enjoy it? That's what we do when we emotionally eat. So when you mindfully eat, you prepare a meal. You make sure that it is balanced. You make sure that it's got enough fats and proteins and carbs, and that it tastes good, and that you have plenty of time to eat it. I love it when people tell me, oh, I don't have time for breakfast. I don't have time for breakfast. I don't have time for breakfast. I don't have time to eat. I don't have time. I don't have time. It's not a priority for you. I want you to change your thinking. I want you to say it differently. Say it out loud. This is not a priority. Eating a healthy breakfast isn't a priority. How does that feel? Wow, hello. So you've got to make you a priority. Eating healthfully has to be a priority. Exercising has to be a priority. Before you put anything in your mouth, you have to ask, am I doing this? Am I putting this in my mouth because I'm actually hungry? Or am I putting this in my mouth because I'm trying to stuff down some emotion, or I'm trying to eat my anger, or I'm trying to stuff down the hurt, or I'm trying to stuff down the memory, or I'm trying to whatever. So if you are putting something in your body for any other reason other than, I need nutrition, it's time to eat. If you're putting it in your mouth for any other reason, put it down. Put it down, get a journal it out, get it out of your head, get it onto paper, trot it out to the barbecue, read it out loud once, burn it. Much healthier for you than stuffing stuff in your mouth all the time. So yeah, we emotionally eat, absolutely. And if we've been in an environment where we cannot confront an abuser, then yeah, we are going to use food as a comfort. And that goes way, 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 way back. That's what we did when we were kids. Eating is a comfort thing. It is. It makes you feel safe. It makes you feel secure. You've got enough calories, you can survive. It's a basic thing. But the problem of it is when we turn it into emotional eating and we're doing that because we're at survival, it's not healthy for us at all. And we usually go for the sweet stuff. We usually go for lots of carbs, lots of sweet stuff, sugars, high fat content, which fat is not always bad, guys. I just wanted to point that out. But you want to be careful about stuffing yourself because you can't speak your truth. And that's what people do. When we emotionally eat, it's because we cannot speak our truth. Okay, so emotional eating, mindfulness. How to separate yourself out from your thoughts and from your emotions. Okay, so this is all about mindfulness, and meditation really truly does help with that because you focus in on the moment. So being in the moment, because what we tend to do as abuse victims, as somebody with CPTSD, we tend to live either in the far off future or the past. And we're very rarely in the actual moment. And I'd like to point out, this is what addicts do as well. Addicts are always living in the future that has not and probably will not happen, or they are living in the distant past, which is already gone and done and can't do anything about it. So you want to stay in the moment. And this is why meditation is so vital, I think, for recovery from abuse, because remember, it is very similar to addiction. We get addicted to the person. We get addicted to the oxytocin. We get addicted to those highs and those lows and those highs and those lows and those highs and those lows. And as we meditate and as we start grounding and as we start running our own energy and staying in the moment, and no, this isn't a bunch of hippy dippy new agey horseshit. This is proven DBT, dialectic behavioral therapy techniques that work, that keep people in the moment, that keep addicts in the moment, including survivors of abuse, that keep us from getting back involved with another abuser. If we are in the moment, we're not in our heads, we're in the moment. So meditation is absolutely 100% needed for self-esteem. So when we have self-esteem, you cannot just do the Stuart Smalley thing. I make fun of it and I use some of the, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. Those are great, but they're not going to help. So let me explain the difference between a real affirmation and a not so helpful affirmation. So in the 1990s, I had a girlfriend. She was so funny, and she belonged to this, I would say, a cult. And they did this whole thing about, if you live wealthfully, wealth will come to you. And if you just have positive thoughts, your entire life is going to be positive. Well, she lived wealthfully and was constantly broke because she didn't have the means to live wealthfully. And the positive thoughts, it was almost like watching somebody in a flood with the water rising and them just denying that there's any water. That's basically what she did. It's like, oh no, I have to have positive thoughts. Everything's great. Everything's fine. Even as the water is rising higher and higher. So you can't just do that. Your affirmations have to be realistic. Your affirmations have to be something that you can align with. And here's the problem though. When we get out of an abusive relationship, we pretty much have zero self-esteem, and we don't believe that we're good enough. And we don't believe that we're worthy. And we don't believe that we are deserving of a healthy, happy, whole relationship. Wow, this is weird. I just suddenly got all the comments. Holy cow. Hello from Scotland. Hi, Francis. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Hi, Catherine. Hi, Shannon. Hi, Laura. Hi, James. Live from London. Wow. Thank you. Hi, Maria. Hi, Brad. Oh my gosh. Yes. Thank you. Laura Rose. Okay. Green smoothies have been a favorite self-care tool for me. Making it with lots of fresh greens, lemon, fruit, broccoli. It's good for you and it feels good. Yeah, my girlfriend, Brenda Colas, she actually survived cancer by doing the green smoothies. That her doctor said that was a large part of why she survived her cancer so well, is because she did the green smoothies every day. Mindful eating. Yes, it's very difficult to do. Hey, Shannon, glad they could help. Ellen, hi. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up because I just realized there were a bunch of comments that I wasn't looking at. Okay, what about the other side, starving yourself? Okay, so we starve ourselves because we're trying to get rid of ourselves. We're trying to disappear, and we don't feel we're worthy, and we don't feel we're worthy of nourishment. And that's where the self-esteem stuff has got to come in, and the positive affirmations have got to be somewhat realistic. It's like, it's okay to feed my body. That's a positive affirmation, and it's also giving you permission. So getting back to that, the affirmations have to be realistic. They cannot be like, I'm going to be the most powerful CEO of technology ever. It can't be like that. Or it can't be like, I'm going to be wealthy. Okay, well, that's lovely. I hope you all are. However, it has to be realistic. It has to be something your brain is not going to kick out. So if we don't truly believe it, our brain is going to kick it out. So if we are telling ourselves, oh, you're wonderful and I love you and you're great and this, that, and the other thing, but we don't really believe it, our brain is going to go, fuck y'all, I ain't going to believe that shit. Fuck that shit. And it's going to push it out. So you don't want to do that. You want to do little small affirmations that your brain is going to accept along the lines of giving yourself permission. It's okay for me to like myself. And when you do that, if your self-esteem is low enough, I can guarantee this internal dialogue is going to pop up and it's going to be like, you can't say that. That's terrible. You can't do that. Blah, 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 blah. And that's when you have to be like, wow, that was a fascinating thought. Thank you for your input. Shut the fuck up. Why? Because I say so. I'm the boss of you. You're not the boss of me. I say so. And then you replace it immediately with, it's okay for me to say nice things about myself, period. So you start small, baby steps, baby steps, baby steps. You got to go small. Let's see. Okay, let's see if there's anything else. Hi, Melly. Okay, so yes, thank you. I'm glad that helps. Okay, where was I? So self-esteem and positive affirmations. So the positive affirmations have to be realistic, and you have to figure out where your self-esteem is low at. So in other words, self-esteem is not just one sticking point in time, and it's not just one area. So it's like you can have great self-esteem in how you think you look, but you might not have good self-esteem in confidence about your intelligence or confidence about your sense of humor. Or do you see where I'm going with that? So it's like self-esteem is a flowing thing. It's not a stuck point in time thing. It's like you can have great self-esteem in one area and terrible self-esteem in another. And it depends on where your abuser really got in there and worked that wound. So you got to kind of figure out, what did they usually harp on? What did they usually tell you that was wrong with you? And then you do the polar opposite and you start working on that. And you start working on getting rid of the mistaken thoughts and the mistaken beliefs that the abuser shoved in your place, in your head, in your thinking. So let's talk about internal dialogue, okay? Every person on the face of the planet talks to themselves. Everybody does. The only ones that don't are like Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, serial killers, cannibals, people like that. So everybody talks to themselves. And if they talk to themselves, and they're healthy, their interior dialogue is like a cheerleader, and it's wonderful. It's like, it's lovely to have a really healthy interior dialogue that is basically along the lines of, I love you, good job, keep going, you're great. Oh, wait, oh shit, you fucked up. Okay, did you make amends? Okay, you did. Okay, good. Forgive yourself, move on. It's kind, it's gentle, it's consistent. It's never cruel. It's never mean. And you can develop a healthy interior dialogue. So let me just give you an example. When I was a kid, my dad was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Most of you know this. I wrote a book about it called What's Wrong with Your Dad? My dad had definitely borderline personality disorder with strong narcissistic traits. And he was very harsh and critical. And so my interior dialogue was very harsh and critical. It was mean. And it wasn't until I was about 18 that I heard it clearly for the first time. And I always knew I had self-esteem issues. I always knew I didn't feel good about myself, but I couldn't figure out why. So when I was 18, I was walking down the street, and I tripped and I fell. And immediately this thing popped up and went, oh, you are so stupid. Blah, 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 blah. You're not good enough. Da, 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 da. I mean, just vicious. And I was like, what the actual? It's like I heard it for the first time. And I was kind of like, okay, that's fascinating. That's kind of my dad's voice. Wow. No, I don't have to believe that. And that's when I started working on the interior dialogue and the self-esteem and recognizing, what am I telling myself all the time? Now, here's the thing. Our interior dialogue is running all the time in the background. And if we are unconscious, it is running you. It is running how you think, how you feel, what you're working on, what you're doing, what you're eating, what you're putting in your mouth. It's totally running you. If you can bring that into the forefront and figure out, what is it telling you all the time? Is it kind? Is it mean? If it's mean, can you shut it up? Can you go, wow, that was a fascinating thought. Nope, you're not the boss of me. Shut the fuck up. Why? Because I say so. And replace it with a positive. Do you see where I'm going with that? You've got to pull this thing into the light. You've got to pull it into consciousness, and you've got to figure out, what are you telling yourself on a daily basis? When things go wrong, are you just beating the living crap out of yourself? Or are you going, okay, that went wrong. What can I do differently next time? Okay, I'll do that differently next time. Make amends to wherever you need to, and then move on. So in other words, we have a very, very, very nasty, nasty habit of, when we are beating ourselves up, we have a tendency to do the whole, if 99 things go right and one thing goes wrong, what do we focus on? We focus on the one thing that went wrong. Why? Well, okay, we've got, evolution going on. So our subconscious is constantly looking for bad things to happen. Why? Because it keeps us safe. It keeps us from, if we're always looking for danger, 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 and there's none there, okay, periscope down, we're good, that's great. But unfortunately, what we tend to do when we have CPTSD is danger, 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 danger. Okay, there's none here, but I'm going to keep looking and keep looking and keep looking and drive myself crazy. And we focus in on the one thing that goes wrong so that we make sure we don't get punished, or that we don't get hurt, or we don't get harmed, or that our abuser does not have an excuse to beat us, to scream at us, to keep us up at night, or whatever. So when we get out of an abusive relationship, it is really, really important to start focusing in on what is going right. What is going right? What is helping? What is healthy? Because healthy, normal people don't always focus in on what's wrong. Now, that is not to say you turn into Pollyanna and you go, la, 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 nothing's wrong, like my friend that I was telling you about. You've got to acknowledge what's going wrong, but then again, you also have to acknowledge what is going right. What is happening that is right in this world? So self-esteem is really important to find out what your interior dialogue is like. Is it cruel? Is it mean? Is it nice? Is it kind? Is it bullying you? What is it doing? So you've got to tune into that. Hang on just a second. Let's see. I got some more comments. There we go. Okay. This thing is acting really weird. Sorry. Hey, Joanna. How long do you recommend meditating each day? Okay. I do not have a great deal of patience. I will tell you that right now. I can handle about 5, maybe 10 minutes. And then I'm like, yeah, look at the time, gotta go. So, so it doesn't have to be, you do not have to twist yourself into a pretzel to get the meditation going. You don't have to, do the lotus position and shut off all the lights and, go into a trance or anything like that. It can just be even in the car as you're driving, reminding yourself of the positive stuff or things that you want to work on. I give myself permission to work on patience. I give myself permission to work on not screaming at the drivers in front of me, because now we've got all the old people in Phoenix, yay. So do you see where I'm going with that? It's like you work on stuff in the moment. You stay present. Obviously, you're not going to go into a trance when you're driving, but it doesn't have to be longer than 5 or 10 minutes. It really doesn't. Even when I'm doing my meditation work to work on, energy work and things like that, 5-10 minutes max, really, that's it. Or if I'm doing the Tonglen meditation, if I'm working on a meditation for, difficulties in my life or difficulties in somebody else's life, 5-10 minutes max. That's really, or however long you're comfortable with. I mean, some people honestly love sitting there for hours doing the meditation. I don't. I would prefer to do it for like 5-10 minutes whenever I need it throughout the day. That's about it. Let's see. Okay. I heard that so much, and now a year out is this fleas. So fleas. So yes. So remember, when our abuser is picking on us, and going after those sensitive spots and the vulnerabilities, we have a tendency to replay their stuff in our head. So it's almost like our abuser is gone, but unfortunately they have taken up space in our head now, and we're replaying we're ruminating, we're rethinking all of the horrible things that they said, kind of thing. So the best way to deal with that, honestly, is to write it out. It's like, write out a goodbye letter to your abuser, and every nasty thing they said about you, you just write it out. It's like, nope, not true. Nope, not true. Nope, not true. Nope, you're talking about yourself. Hello. And you just go ahead and write it out, trot it out to the barbecue, burn it, start getting rid of it. And anytime that voice comes back that says, oh, you guns, remember that? Anytime that does the you're this, you're that, you're awful, you're terrible, blah, 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 blah. Thank you for your input. Shut the fuck up. Who the hell is this? No, we're not going to play this game. No, sorry. I'm not going to put myself down for you. And oftentimes when I tell people to write a letter to their abuser, at the very end of it, I tell them to kick them out, raise the rent, evict them, say, you know what? I'm not putting myself down for you. I'm not going to treat myself poorly anymore. I am going to buy nice things for myself. I am going to take care of my body. I am going to do things that are good for me. You are no longer in charge of me. You're not the boss of me. I am. Fuck you. Goodbye. Trot it out to the barbecue, light it on fire, burn it, let it go. So that's what I recommend for that. Let's see. If the video is stalling, guys, it could be your connection. So, because I finally fixed this whole thing with Cox cable. So, Thank God. Anyway, which is a whole other thing, but that's okay. All right. Okay. All right. Yes, it is a process. It absolutely is a process. So self-esteem is not going to happen overnight. Like I said, I started working on mine when I was about 18 years old, and I clearly heard the nastiness for the first time. And it took me a few years after that to really nail that down and be able to tell that voice, no, I'm sorry. I'm not abusing myself for you. Sorry. Bye-bye. Not playing. So, okay. So self-esteem. And 5 ways to do it and make it stick. This is an article that is in Psychology Today, and I love this. So this is 5 ways to make your self-esteem, to boost your self-esteem and to make it stick. So the first one is avoid generic affirmations. Like I said, you cannot do just the whole, I'm going to be wealthy. I'm going to be. That's like a future statement. You want to make it a current statement. I like my nose. I like my lips. I like my laughter. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like you make it in the here and the now, things that you like. Start focusing in on that. And oftentimes I tell people when they start doing these positive affirmations, you're not ready to look in the mirror and go, I love you. You're not ready for that kind of commitment yet. So you want to start small. You want to start with the likes first. You want to start with the, liking yourself. What do you like about you? What are your strengths? My God, you have survived an abusive relationship. I would call that a strength. Okay, that's pretty amazing. Hi, you're pretty amazing for having survived an abusive relationship in more or less one piece. Good job. That's an affirmation. So I suggest people look in the mirror and do mirror work. And oftentimes it is very difficult for us to look in the mirror. Why? Oh, good Lord. We get so many nasty body image messages, male and female. I mean, men are having issues with body image as well as females. And it's really hard for most people to look in the mirror, not because they don't like what they see, they don't like what they hear, because we say these awful, horrible, terrible, nasty things to ourselves when we look in the mirror. We start focusing in on, oh my God, I'm aging, or I've got these wrinkles, or I've, or I don't like my nose, or, stupid things like that. It's like, stop, okay? Aging is a gift that is not given to every person. Enjoy it. Secondly, it's like, you're gonna get old if you're lucky. Wrinkles are just meaning that you've had a life. That's it. So enjoy it. Enjoy your body. Enjoy your face. Enjoy your body. Love this vessel that carries us forward in life. This is what this does. It's amazing, really, when you think about it. So we don't like what we hear. It's not that we don't like what we see. We don't like what we hear because we tell ourselves these horrible, awful, terrible, nasty things. So this is a great opportunity when you look in the mirror to figure out what this thing is. You're going to hear it real loud and clear. What is this thing telling you? How mean is it? How harsh is it? What is it saying that is not helpful? What do you need to do to get rid of that nastiness? So when you look in the mirror, you make eye contact with yourself, and that may be difficult for some people. If you cannot do that, I'm going to give you an alternative exercise that you can do to work on self-esteem. So you make eye contact with yourself, okay? And then you simply say, hi, I'm really glad to see you. Have a good day. That's it. That's all you need to do. For the first week, that's all I want you to do. Simple, 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 really simple stuff. So, okay, let's see. Any tips for dealing with pretty high anxiety levels related to low self-esteem and fear of criticism in the workplace? My parents like to trip me up and now struggle to tell me when things are going right or not. Everything feels like it could be serious or highly offensive mistakes. Oh, okay. We're going to work on that in just a second. I promise I will get back to that. Okay. So you want to avoid generic stuff. You want to be specific. So, hi, good to see you. Have a good day. I give you permission to work on whatever it is you want to work on. So like, I give you permission to work on accepting compliments. Accepting compliments is a huge part of self-esteem, guys. So think of it this way. When somebody gives us a compliment, it is a gift. If if it's a true compliment and not love bombing, and we'll talk about the difference. But if somebody gives us a compliment or gives us an acknowledgement or a validation of who or what we're doing, who we are, what we're doing, it is a gift. And to reject it is to not only reject the gift, but to reject the person. So when somebody gives you a compliment, you may feel embarrassed and you may feel like you're not worthy of it. And you may feel like going, no, I don't want this compliment. Oh my God. But what I want you to do is I want you to sit with the uncomfortableness, and I just want you to look the person in the eyes and say, thank you. Thank you for seeing me. That's it. You don't have to compliment them back. What we tend to do is a way to deflect compliments or to deflect validation or to deflect somebody really seeing us is to go, oh, well, you're great too, and and take the spotlight off of us. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. You want to allow the compliment in and say, thank you, genuinely. And if you choose to compliment the person back, make sure it is a genuine compliment. Make sure it is something heartfelt. Don't just say it to say it. Do you see where I'm going with that? All right. Identify areas of strengths and competency. You're a survivor. You're a damn survivor. You have survived. You are stronger than you know. If you have gotten out of this relationship, if you are getting out of this relationship, if you are recognizing you are in an abusive relationship, you are stronger than you know. Give yourself props for that. Hi, you're really amazingly strong. Good job. Simple things that are true. So does that make sense? Then once you've identified your strengths, start doing things that really reinforce that. Give yourself permission to shine. Give yourself permission to be competent. Because let me tell you something, our abusers love to say things like, oh, they're children. Oh, you're such a child. Oh, you're this. You guns. You're this, you're that. You're incompetent. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're talking about. You're not a professional. How do you know this? Blah, 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 blah. Do you see where I'm going with that? So you want to start demonstrating your ability, because you need to remind yourself that you do know what you're talking about. You are competent. You are a good person. You do know your stuff. Does that make sense? Because abusers love to level and tear down people and tell them that they don't know what they're talking about. So learn to tolerate positive feedback. And we're going to talk about negative feedback as well. So tolerating positive feedback, when somebody, again, acknowledges you, sees you, gives you that positive validation, you want to just say thank you and sit with it and just notice what this thing does. How badly does this thing bag on you? How badly does this thing want you to not accept it? Criticism. Okay, so when we have had hypercritical parents, and I'm going to be talking more about this next week because my next week's show is going to be on toxic mothers and how that affects the daughters, and toxic fathers and how that affects the sons, and vice versa, and all over the place. So we're going to be talking about toxic parents next week. But when we have had parents that are hypercritical and they are doing, unnecessarily critical, mean, harsh, nasty comments, we become very sensitized to criticism of any kind. And it's really, really hard to either accept criticism or to listen to the criticism without taking it personally. So going back to, how do you have emotions without acting on them? Okay, mindfulness again. So when somebody gives us a criticism, we have to filter out whether it is a constructive criticism or whether this is a personal dig. Now, the problem of it is that when we have been personally dug at our entire life, we're going to think everything is a personal dig. And I don't want you to make the decision in that moment. What you do need to do is go home and mull it over, figure it out. Is this a personal dig, or is this really, a constructive criticism? And you've got to start figuring out if it is or it isn't. So generally, constructive criticism does not have any nastiness attached to it. So for example, when I'm working with Andy, who is my marketing guy, he'll throw out suggestions. He'll be like, okay, you need to do this differently, or you need to, do this differently, or maybe you should think about this, or maybe you should, do you see where I'm going? And it's all positive and it's constructive, and it is criticism. It's like, hey, I'd like to see you do this differently. Okay. So, you decide where this is coming from. What is the agenda of the person giving the criticism? Are they coming from a position of, I want to really truly help you? Or are they coming from a position of, I want to control you? And as you get further and further away from the abuse, you're going to start feeling the difference. It really is a feel. It's like you can tell when somebody's intentions are good versus when their intentions are to harm, to manipulate, to control. So constructive criticism is never harmful. It is never hurtful. It is never personal. It's always like, here's how you can make things better. That's constructive criticism. If somebody comes at you with the you guns, you can bet your sweet bippy that they've got another agenda going on. So yeah, or if they're calling you names, or if they're demeaning you or putting you down, or, you know, making you feel terrible, that's not constructive criticism. Okay, so anyway, this is a great article, 5 ways to boost your self-esteem and to make it stick. I really like that. Okay. Some people hate receiving compliments. I started talking about that, and it is because it's our basic assumption. Okay, so this is another great article, why some people hate accepting compliments, also on Psychology Today. So we hate receiving compliments because it goes against our basic assumption. If our caregivers have told us over and over and over again that we're unlovable or unworthy, or not worthy of love, not worthy of attention, not worthy of this, not worthy of that, and somebody comes in and says, hey, you're like really worthy, what the heck, I totally see who you are, what's going on, then it's really hard to accept compliments because we've been told for so long that we're not worthy. So it's really important to start working on self-esteem and start allowing yourself to accept compliments. Allow yourself, give yourself permission. Hey, it's okay for me to accept compliments. Hey, it's okay for me to be liked. Hey, it's okay for me to be seen. Hey, it's okay. I'm okay. It's okay. There is nothing intrinsically wrong with me. And that's what our abusers love to say, is that there's something wrong with us. Wrong. So yeah, you don't want to do that. Okay, this is kind of weird. So the comments, I'm getting more comments. I can see there are more comments, and it's really hard for this thing to scroll down. I don't know why. Yay, Macintosh. Okay. Let's see. Hi, Georgina. Yeah, the toxic parents, I think, is going to be a really good one, because that's honestly, they are the ones who kind of set us up and groomed us to become involved with toxic abusers romantically. So I want to definitely talk about all of that and attachment and things like that. So super important to start working on receiving compliments. Now, here's the other thing I want you to keep in mind. Abusers watch their prey. Abusers watch their targets, and they figure out where your low points are. They figure out where your self-esteem is. And if they hear verbiage that is self-demeaning, putting down, no, I don't deserve that. Oh man, I'm telling you, they just hit the jackpot. They know they've got their crack for the next 20 years. So you want to be very careful about putting yourself down, self-demeaning talk, making jokes about yourself, that kind of thing, because that's what abusers look for. They look for that language. They listen for that language. They look for that low self-esteem behavior because they know that they can manipulate and control you. And they play your worst fears out, and they make sure that they drag up your past, and they make sure that you're ashamed for it, and they tell you lies about it, and they tell you nobody will ever love you except them, and yada, 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 yada. This is what they do. So, yeah, so you want to start working on your self-esteem for several good reasons. One, for you, number one, but number two, you want to do it so that you are never pegged as a victim by an abuser, because they listen for how we talk to ourselves. They listen to how we say things to ourselves. They listen for what is sensitive to us, and they go for it. They go for the jugular. They will go for the jugular. So you want to be careful of that. Okay, let's see. All right. Hey, Tasha. Okay, so 10 ways to learn to like yourself better. Another great article on Psychology Today. Really, Psychology Today is such a great reference. It really is. It's got tons of articles. It's got blogs. It's got guest articles by different speakers. It's really, really good. So you want to start working on allowing yourself to enjoy yourself. So allow yourself to acknowledge your accomplishments. For example, leaving an abusive relationship, or even thinking of leaving an abusive relationship, or working on your self-esteem, or, doing that hobby that you've always wanted to do, or whatever. Really allow yourself to enjoy the things that you are doing. Learn to look at things you like about yourself in the mirror. Shut this thing up. Tell it to shut up. Tell yourself that you do like what you see. Pick something that you do like. Work on that first. Go for your strongest point, and then we can start working on the lesser points later, the ones that you're struggling with. So let's say, for example, let's say you had a father that was always telling you were fat. Oftentimes, you'll get this weird image in your mind that you're fat, even though you're thin. So you want to start working on, I love my body, period. No matter how much it weighs. I love my body. I love this vessel, this thing that drives me through life, that gets me to where I need to go. I love this. This is great. Thank you, body. Acknowledgement, gratitude. This is another thing that has to do with self-esteem. Narcissists and borderline personality disorder people who are narcissistically inclined and who are malignant have absolutely no gratitude. They also have very little sense of humor. So you want to have gratitude. You want to have gratitude. Wake up in the morning. What are you grateful for? What is going right? What is good in life? Oh God, I just sounded like Conan the Barbarian. So sorry. You don't want to crush your enemies and see them driven before you and hear the lamentation of the women, but you want to think about the things that are going right. What is going right? What is good? What do you like? What do you have to be grateful for? You're breathing, you're on the right side of the turf, you're working on getting out of the abusive relationship, or you've left the abusive relationship. All of those things are right. You're working on your self-esteem, you're working on your career, you're working on whatever. You want to do things, you want to remind yourself the gratitude. What are you grateful for? Are you grateful for the family and friends that stuck with you? Are you grateful for the family and friends that maybe had to walk away and shut the door, but were still there waiting out the other side once you got out of the abusive relationship? Yeah, you want to be grateful for that. You bet. So there's that. All right. Now, you want to take your time with this. This is not going to happen overnight. There's a reason we got into an abusive relationship. It generally has to do with attachment issues. But there's a reason we got into an abusive relationship, and there's a reason we stayed in the abusive relationship for so long. Oftentimes it's because we're empathic and we want to heal a little bit of the codependency going on, and we wanted to fix, and that person just didn't want to be fixed. Although they will sit there and say, fix me, fix me, fix me, fix me, and we're sitting there trying to fix them, and then they go, screw you. But when we get out of the relationship, self-forgiveness, self-compassion. You must have compassion for yourself. There are reasons we stayed in this relationship. There are reasons we didn't get out immediately. There are reasons that kept us there. There are, maybe our abuser was blackmailing us. Maybe our abuser was lying to us and gaslighting, making us believe that everybody around us really hated them and the only person who loved and supported them was the abuser. Interesting. There are reasons we stayed in these relationships. So you want to have compassion for yourself. So there's a wonderful book by Tara Brach called, brain just left the building. Tara Brach, Radical Acceptance. There we go. Radical Acceptance by Tara Brach. And is a wonderful book for working on self-forgiveness and self-compassion. And the one thing that abusers will do is when we are working on ourselves, they will start sabotaging. So if you are still in a relationship with an abuser, I can guarantee you they will prevent you from going to therapy. Absolutely. If you ask to go to therapy, or if you say, hey, I'm going to therapy to work on my self-esteem, they will prevent you. They will find a reason why you cannot go. They will find a reason why that if you do go, that you have to tell them everything you're working on in therapy. That's not okay. Your therapy session is yours. Your therapy session does not belong to your partner. Not in any relationship. So remember that. And if your partner is demanding that you tell them everything that's going on in therapy, then Houston, you're in an abusive relationship. You absolutely are. If you start working on your self-esteem and they start seeing you get stronger, they will sabotage. They will make sure you cannot go to therapy. They will make sure that your self-esteem workbook suddenly disappears. They will make sure you don't have time to work on it. They will become jealous. They will accuse you of having an affair with the therapist. They will accuse you of, not spending enough time with them, even though they might be living with you and are with you 24/7. Any time away from them is going to be considered high treason, basically. So you definitely want to get with a therapist, a good one that understands domestic violence and understands abusers. And if you are still in that relationship, don't fucking tell them you're in therapy, because if you do, they're going to sabotage it and they're going to make sure you cannot go, or they are going to make sure that you run home and tell them everything that has happened. So yeah, you don't want that. Okay. When we think about the past, and this has to do with our self-esteem, when we think about the past, we have a very bad habit of ruminating. So in other words, we start thinking about the past and beating ourselves up for things that happened in the past. You don't want to do that. You want to be able to think about the past and put it into perspective. So again, this has to do with how do you not get involved in your thoughts? How do you not act out your emotions? How do you have some distance? So it's called detachment. So basically what you do is when you think about the past, observe it like a curious observer. It's kind of like, okay, I'm really curious, what happened here? What, and when we are observers, there's no emotion attached to it. In other words, there's no damning, there's no judgment, there's no harming, there's no you, there's no putting down. There's just kind of a curiosity. It's kind of like that's interesting. That happened. Interesting. What's the lesson? Detachment. Instead of, oh my God, I was involved with an abuser and I stayed for all these years and I'm so stupid for not getting out. Okay, do you hear all the judgment and stuff going on with that? Yeah, no, you don't want to do that. You want to have detachment, just like observing. And what was the lesson? What did you learn? What did you learn out of all of this? What can you do differently next time? How do you avoid getting involved in another abusive relationship? Well, you have great self-esteem, number one. You have a list of deal breakers, number two, and you have boundaries, and the word no is your favorite word. And you use it often wisely and well. And you do not participate in self-putting down. You do not kick your own ass. Trust me, there are plenty of fucking assholes out there lined up around the block to kick you in the ass. Don't you fucking be one of them. Seriously, don't put yourself down. Stop it. There's plenty of other assholes out there that are willing to do that for you. Don't you be one of them. Seriously. So, okay. No one is perfect, guys. No one is perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone. Every single person on the face of the planet makes mistakes. So be gentle with you. When mistakes happen, you kind of got to go, okay, yeah, that didn't exactly work out the way I wanted. Who do I need to make amends to? How do I fix this? Okay, I've done it. Move on. Let it go. Stop, mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. You can't keep doing that the rest of your life. Well, you could, but your life is going to be pretty miserable if you do that. Okay, so that was 10 ways to learn to like yourself better. Also available on Psychology Today. Okay. Next article that I pulled out because I really liked this one was 4 ways to stop beating yourself up once and for all. And this has to do with the rumination stuff that we were talking about. So we say horrible things to ourselves, and it's generally because we've learned it. It's a learned behavior. We've either gotten it from caregivers or we've gotten it from people that we worked with, bosses, things like that. Oh, good Lord, now this thing is finally moving again. It's so weird. It's not giving me the comments. I have to keep clicking on it to make it go. Okay. Oh, yes. Pete Walker's book, CPTSD from Surviving to Thriving, is phenomenal. I would strongly recommend doing that in conjunction with the self-esteem workbook because it's going to help you. And remember, you're going to take it in tiny little chunks because you're going to get triggered. Okay, let's see. Okay, yeah, helping children after abuse. Kids are very, oh dear Lord. Okay. When there are children involved, when there is a parent who is abusive and they are verbally abusive or physically abusive, kids take things to heart. Kids are like little sponges and they just absorb everything and they think it's their fault. They do. They think that, dad or mom or whoever was abusive because of them. So it's really, really, really important that no matter what is going on, make sure in whatever decree you've got, custody decree, that you get to have the kids in therapy and that they are with a good therapist that can help them work through all of these issues. You also want to start doing mirror work with them. It's never too soon. It is never too soon. I've got kids, 3 years old working on mirror work with their parents. So, looking in the mirror and just going, hi, I like fuck you. Have a good day. Simple stuff. You want to start doing that. You want to start phrasing things positively, and you also want to be realistic about the negative things. You don't want to do the whole, everything you do is perfect, because it's not. Everybody makes mistakes. But you also want to separate out the action from the person. So when I do couples counseling, one of the biggest mistakes that couples make is when they're angry at their partner, they pull out the you guns, and they don't separate the action from the person. So let's say the dishes don't get done. So instead of saying, instead of being constructive, they say something along the lines of, well, you're a slob and you're this and you're that because the dishes are not getting done and you don't care and blah, blah, blah. You. Instead of, which would be a better way to put it is, I feel disrespected when the dishes don't get done. I see that you are a good person, and I want to let you know I feel disrespected when the dishes don't get done. Do you see the difference in that one? Instead of you're bad, you're wrong, you're this, you're that, it's like, I feel disrespected when the dishes don't get done. I feel like you don't respect me. This is an issue. We need to work on this. So again, with kids, you separate out the behavior from the child, because oftentimes what parents will do is they'll say, you're a bad boy, you're a bad girl. Do you see where I'm going with that? You never want to do that. You want to say, this behavior was bad. I don't like the behavior. I still love you. And you're still going to go stand in the corner for 5 minutes, because that's not allowed. So you separate out the behavior from the person. You don't push them into one. So that's how you start working on self-esteem with kids. And you make sure to appropriately praise and validate. You don't over-validate. You appropriately praise and validate. It's kind of like, nowadays we've gone over in the other direction where it's like people get awards for just showing up. No, bullshit. You want to appropriately validate and praise. So I hope that answers the question. So yeah, mirror work. Start talking to them about mirror work. Start talking to them about positive self-talk. What do you tell yourself during the day? Are you nice to you? Are you mean to you? What do you say when that happens? What do you say to yourself? Start talking to kids. They're not stupid. Drives me crazy when people act like kids are just like, cognitively, because they may not be able to grasp everything. They act like the kids are like somehow not picking up on stuff. Kids are very intuitive. They're not dumb. Don't treat them like they're dumb. Talk to them, talk to them, not at them, talk to them. That's really going to help their self-esteem a lot. Okay. Today I bought a cup that says, do more of what makes you happy. I deserve it, and I need to read it every day. Yay. I like that. Okay. Let's see. Radical acceptance. Thank you for putting that up. The curious observer is very powerful. Yes. Reframing the past. Yeah, you want to reframe everything. So instead of like, oh my God, I'm so stupid for staying in this relationship, or oh my God, I'm so weak, or, whatever bullshit story you're telling yourself, reframe it. Wow, I was really groomed to become a victim. Holy cow, I don't have to do that anymore. Wow. Empowerment, power to the people. Do you see where I'm going? It's like you reframe. You don't keep telling yourself the same victim story. You don't keep telling yourself the same story that makes you feel like doo-doo. So yeah, it's all in the reframe. Separate the critic from you. I think that's a really good idea. It's in this article. So separating out the critic, just like how I had to figure out that negative, nasty voice was my dad's. It was like, damn, okay, Bob, I don't need you in my head anymore. Thanks for playing. Fuck you. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like separate out the critic from the real you, because the real you does not pop out of the womb going mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. So yeah, that's a learned behavior. And then you replace the critic. You replace it with the positive stuff. You do. It's like, as soon as they say something nasty, you go, I'm not inviting you in for coffee. You're not staying around. Fuck off. Why? Because I say so. Take your power back and replace it immediately with a positive. Oh, so you think I'm not good enough? Well, guess what, motherfucker? I am good enough. Why? Because I say so, period. So you replace. And you don't have to swear if you don't want to, but I like to swear. So anyway, okay. So great article, 4 ways to stop beating yourself up once and for all. It is really good. Go on to Psychology Today and look it up. It's a really good article. I really like that. So self-compassion. All right. And I started to talk about this a little bit. Self-compassion is huge, and we don't have enough self-compassion for ourselves. And it's so funny because we think that if we're hard on ourselves, that somehow we're going to do better. It doesn't work that way. So think of it this way. It's just like when a little kid learns how to walk. they're going to fall a lot, right? They're going to make mistakes. They're not going to have perfect balance. They're not going to be able to toddle along and keep up with you. So if you were an abuser, you would scream at that kid and yell at them and tell them how stupid they are for falling. That kid is going to be developmentally delayed. That kid is not going to do as well as a child who has an encouraging parent who is like, hey, it's okay, get back up. Okay, good job. Keep going, keep going. So it's like, with ourselves, it's funny, we can have compassion for children, but sometimes we are our worst critic and we are so harsh and mean to us because we somehow think that we're going to be better if we're telling ourselves that we're not good enough. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. If you keep telling yourself that you're not good enough, then your brain is going to go, oh, okay, she doesn't want us to be good enough. Okay, I'm going to make that happen. Okay. And then it does, and it makes it happen. So let me just give you a little example of that. How many times have you woken up in the morning and said, oh my God, it's going to be a shitty day. And lo and behold, it's a shitty day. Why? Because your subconscious is listening and it goes, oh, she wants it to be a shitty day. Okay, we're going to make it a shitty day. That's why what you tell yourself is so vitally important to your self-esteem. If you're constantly being kind and gentle and encouraging, then it's going to become automatic. It's going to be like your second response. You know, it's like you're not even going to think about it. You're going to say nice things to yourself, even if you fuck up, which is the beautiful part. So self-compassion is huge, and it helps us meet life's challenges. And it's mindfulness. It's all about being in the moment. It's about staying present. It's about not living in the distant past, not living in the distant future, being in the moment and appreciating what is here and what is now and what is real. Because oftentimes the way our abuser has gaslighted us, it's really, really hard for us to figure out what is real and what isn't real. And it takes time and it takes distance from the abuser to start figuring out what is real and what isn't. Okay, so darn this thing, it's weird. It's like it's not getting me the comments. Darn it. Anyway, okay. So self-compassion works and harsh criticism does not. And again, I use the example of the baby. It's like, you know, when you're learning new stuff, you've got to be gentle with you and you've got to be kind to you and you've got to give yourself encouragement. People do best when they are being encouraged. People do best when they are being loved and supported and, you know, made to feel like they are, you know, loved and supported. And you've got to be your own parent. So when we are re-raising ourselves, when we are reparenting ourselves from an abusive relationship, because oftentimes, like I said, this is based on the attachment issues that we had with our original caregivers, you've got to be kind and gentle to you. You've got to be compassionate to you. And this is where people often get screwed up, is that I've often heard abusers say to their target, well, everybody needs to be compassionate with me because I've had such a rough life and I've had such a rough childhood and yada, yada, yada. Okay, there is a difference between seeing compassion for somebody who has had a life that was difficult and having idiot compassion for an abuser who is continuing to abuse a target. You do not have idiot compassion ever. Pima Chodron talks about this. You do not have idiot compassion. You can love that person from afar. You can wish them well from afar. You can say, hey, I see that you've had a rough life. I got it. You got issues. You're not allowed in my life. Have compassion from afar. You can do that. So, but abusers will oftentimes, to the family and friends, demand that you have compassion for them and have them in your life because they are controlling the target and they're doing it through guilt, using the whole, oh, I had a rough childhood, yada, yada, yada. So, you know, I had a rough childhood. I don't abuse people, period. So there's no excuse for it. Okay, 9 ways to calm your anxious mind. Okay, so when we have had, and oh, good Lord, we're running out of time, but I'm going to keep going. When we have had an abuser in our life, we are oftentimes going to be very, very anxious. We are, because it's just the nature of the beast. We are going to have a lot of anxiety. We're going to have a lot of mistaken thoughts, a lot of mistaken beliefs. And so we need to calm ourselves. So one of the ways that we can calm our overthinking is to get it out of our heads. And this has to do with self-esteem as well, because people who love themselves do not allow themselves to be tormented by thoughts. They don't. They also don't beat themselves up. They also don't treat themselves poorly. They also, you know, they exercise, they eat healthfully. People who love themselves take care of themselves. Like all the way around, ecumenically, like everything, like physical, mental, emotional, sleep hygiene, emotional hygiene, every kind of hygiene. You take care of yourself. So ways to calm your mind. Meditation is one of them. And practicing mindfulness, that's another one. Defusing yourself from your thoughts, like I've been talking about. It's like being the observer and being able to say, okay, this is a thought, nothing more. So, yes, it's a thought. Okay, it's a thought. What are my judgments about this thought? Do I need to invite this thought in? Do I need to move this thought on down? What do I need to do? Focus on direct experience. So you have got stories that the abuser has told you. The abuser has lied to you. The abuser has made up stories about your family, about your friends. They have made up stories about you, and you've got to figure out what is real and what isn't. And that's why a therapist really, really, really comes into play with this, because the gaslighting is very often so successful and the cognitive dissonance is so much that it takes a therapist helping to detangle all of the fakeness from the real, fake from real, fake from real, fake from real. And it can happen and it can be done. It just takes persistence, and you have to be away from your abuser, because otherwise the abuser is just going to keep going back in and re-gaslighting and retangling and re-causing problems and trying to isolate you from family and friends and trying to get you out of therapy and trying to keep you from going to therapy and demanding that you know all about the therapy and blah, 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 blah. Okay, staying in the present, that's one. Labeling things, that's another, that's a good one. Broadening your view, getting up and moving, getting up and exercising. Exercise is a great way to release anxiety. It's a great way to clear your thoughts. Go for a walk, go for a jog, go for a swim, go work out, go do something. Getting physical often helps. And then you have to decide whether the thought is helpful or not. So sometimes thoughts are not helpful. Sometimes the thoughts are automatic thoughts that we have that have been shoved into our place, into our head by our abuser. And if they're not helpful, punt them out. So like, let's say that thought from my dad, oh, you're so stupid. Okay, well, obviously I'm not. So thank you for that thought, Dad. That was fantastic. Not believing it anymore. Bye-bye. Not inviting you in for coffee. And I choose to not have that thought enter there. And I'm going to replace it with, guess what? I'm not stupid. So do you see where I'm going with that? So you want to thought replace. It's called thought stopping and replacing, thought stopping and replacing. And it is really, really important to self-esteem to do that. So basically it's all about mindfulness. It really is all about how to stay mindful, what you are thinking, what you are feeling, what you are, doing. How are you acting? Are you being driven by the unconscious? Are you being driven by these old messages, these mistaken thoughts, these mistaken beliefs that no longer keep you safe? So remember, when we are with an abuser, we develop a whole series of behaviors that are maladaptive that we have in order to keep us safe from the aggressor. One of them is identifying with the aggressor. One of them is starting to act just exactly like the abuser so that the abuser doesn't abuse us and abuses somebody else instead. But that's maladaptive. That's not going to work once you get away from the aggressor. You need to start working on your self-esteem and who you really are, because we lose ourselves. We lose bits and pieces of ourselves to the abuser over time. And self-esteem is about gathering those bits and pieces back and making us a whole person and working on that original attachment issue, working on the mistaken thoughts, the mistaken beliefs that we had from that original attachment to mom, to dad, to caregivers, to grandparents, to teachers, to whatever. So, so that's that. Okay. I cannot think of anything else. Self-Esteem Workbook by Schiraldi, Radical Acceptance by Tara Brock, Radical Forgiveness by Colin Tipping, CPTSD From Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. I love those books. Also, I wanted to remind you, my book is now out. It is available on demand, print on demand. It is, You Can Lead a Horse to Water, but you cannot make them cha-cha. Why Some People Stay in Abuse and Some Don't, by me. So, pretty fun book to write. And I loved the process of getting the cover. I got to tell you, it was a student that we had do a, what is it, like a contest. And so the person who won the contest got to do the cover. And of course they got a prize. So that was pretty cool. So anyway, You Can Lead a Horse to Water, but you can't make them do the cha-cha. Available on Amazon, on print on demand. Also my old book, What's Wrong with Your Dad, is also available on Amazon, print on demand. I think it's also available on Kindle. We are working on the audio version of both books, so those will be coming out soon. And I cannot think of anything else to tell you guys. Okay, so next week on We Need to Talk, I will be discussing toxic parents. We're going to be talking about how the toxic mom affects the daughter, how the toxic dad affects the son, and vice versa and opposite. So we're going to be talking about all that. Get your questions ready. I love the fact that some of you guys actually sent in your questions ahead of time. That is actually very helpful to me. So please keep doing that. Cannot think of anything else. Okay, guys, go have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you next week. Bye.